Okay, so this is like a really rough sketch on a napkin, to be honest, piece of paper towel. But hopefully it gives you an idea. So just so you have an idea where we're starting, this squiggly line represents the fence that is where we mostly enter. Right, the gate here with the sort of the little driveway here, and we park on the street by the front entrance to the United Way, just so you can orient yourself, okay? So you come in the gate and there's the walkway here, and when you're coming in to the left is the plantings here. So I've planted an Annabelle hydrangea in this area, and I'm trying to get it, oh, I have to move my hand, I guess, to get it to zoom in on the scribbling. So that's an Annabelle hydrangea, which is a plant that grows well in almost all conditions, but it certainly does survive shade. And it's a hydrangea, so it has the big white puffy flowers. It will fill in that space eventually. As it grows, it will fill in that space and become quite large. So it's going to hide, a lot of things. And then in front of that, I had planted some hostas that I had acquired from some customers. There's some ground cover in there that is native geranium, and then along the front, right along the path, you will see I planted some of the flowers that Amy was able to acquire for us. So that will add a little bit of color as people come in the door. Let's hope that they survive and that they thrive. We're really late getting started on this, but we're doing our best. Then along here is the totem pole, which we're hoping to plant among. So Amy commented today that she wanted to put some flowers in there. That's just fine. Do whatever you want. I'm hoping that as time goes on, I'm able to put in some shade-loving plants like Solomon seal and fern, perhaps some hostas, perhaps some violets. It's going to depend what I can get. But yes, the totem pole is intended to be planted. So as it decomposes, it becomes part of the garden. That's the theory there, okay? Then as you came in today, you probably noticed I had dug out some of this area here. It's because I was creating a garden for the rose. So I got cuttings for what's called a common rose. It's a native Canadian rose shrub or tree that I planted here. Let's hope it survives. I took the cuttings during the heat, so I'm not sure, but I can. It's at my parents' place, so I can always go back and get some more. But I'm hoping that the ones we've got have survived. And then beside that is the hose area, so you can see it sort of goes in. This is obviously not the scale, and then out. Again, to accommodate for the width of the water cube and the grapevine arbor that we're hoping to build that goes up and over top of the water cube, so that we are able to save that grapevine and in fact to give it an area to grow and thrive. Because in the past it appears there's been, based on what I saw when I weeded, it seems as though there's been some attempts because there's been some netting that I found in there, but it needs something to cling to. It doesn't cling to brick. It has little tendrils, and it needs like a fence to wrap the tendrils around in order to climb. So Simona is able to provide us with the wire to create that. So hopefully we'll be able to do that up and over the water cube, which will really help to disguise it and save something that Rob has planted, okay? And then the garden should sort of go in towards the wall and down to the gate. And there's room here for a smaller shrub. I just didn't want to put the rose there because if it really thrived, if it happens to really thrive in that area, it means that people coming in the gate might get pricked with the rose shrub, which I didn't think was a good idea. Not very welcoming, so maybe we'll plant something different there, okay? Then the shade garden here is the meditation or reflection garden. So there's already 2 trees here, and there is also a gooseberry bush that will probably relocate because I'm thinking that birds or squirrels have planted that seed because it really should be in full sun. So I'm hoping to dig it up and move it, but I don't want to do that until we're confident in a place that it's going to be moved to, because it shouldn't be moved twice. Okay, so it's staying where it is for now. In this area though, I'd like to provide a little bit of seating, but it'll be mostly green. So based on the research that I did, meditation or reflection gardens should be the most common asked for is just soft green, cool texture, breeze, that type of thing. So I'm thinking ferns, Solomon seal, hosta, trillium, that kind of thing. And perhaps in there we'd be able to put in the solar powered water feature so that the trickling sound of the water would hide or disguise the sound of any traffic going by. But that's like a dream, and if we can come up with it, that's great, and if not, we've got what we've got. Okay, so you come around the corner here, and here is what I call the pollinator sun garden. So you're in full sun in this area, and most pollinators want plants that grow in full sun. So the tall, short, but bright colored plants, and there's like all different types that can grow in this particular area. So we had some that were already there, and I did my very best to save them. I've also planted some other native plants to grow in this area. And the Russian sage, obviously Russian, it's not native, but it's also not invasive, and butterflies love it. So I've planted it in the area as well. And I'll continue planting depending on what I can acquire as the gardening season goes along. So how far exactly this will go along here or along here, I don't really know. We just sort of have to wait and see what we can get, and it might evolve over time. So then this area here is quite high up compared to the path. There's a lot of soil that has washed down off of here. So we need to do something to build this up a little bit. That's why I'm suggesting that we try and find some brick. And it can be all kinds of different brick. It might be like cement blocks, or it might be the stones that are specifically made for that type of thing. But the nice thing about brick is that you can add it as you get pieces. Maybe you have a chance to pick up one piece, and maybe you have a chance to pick up three. You can stick it in and add it and build as you go along, rather than having to get, hundreds to create your wall. We can just sort of work with it as we go. So that's kind of my theory here. I don't remember how high this needs to be, but we'll figure that out. This area here is the vegetable garden, and I'm hoping to, well, even in this picture here, this diagram, I've got it kind of expanded over towards the path and up more, because I'm really hoping to maximize that footprint. It's the vegetables that we really need. With that said, we need pollinators, we need birds, we need lots of different things, but the vegetables are important to feed the community. So we want it a little bigger than what it is at the moment. So I'm trying to expand it this way towards the path, as well as, this way from where it is currently, more into the grass area. Okay, so I'm hoping to break that to add at least another 3 feet there, if not 4 feet. The circles that I've got marked there are it indicates the area that are for the herbs and the medicinal plants. So it doesn't matter if it's, round pots, square pots, rectangular raised gardens, it doesn't really matter. The idea is that they're up and out of the ground. So there's many medicinal plants, and honestly, Amy knows way more about that than I do, but there's many of them that have been brought into our country because of their medicinal benefits. But the unfortunate part of that is that they are not native, and so some of them have a tendency to take over and destroy our native, which is not a good thing. So if we put them into the pots, plant them in there, they can be part of our garden community without or reducing the risk of them becoming an invasive plant in our garden. So that's the reason that I was hoping to put them into like raised pots. And what I mean by raised is that I want the opening to be at least 2 feet off the ground. So a high pot, high rectangular garden, I don't care, but it needs to be at least 2 feet off the ground. That's the theory there, okay? Then here we have the white ash tree that Peter was talking about having it, whether or not they'd had it treated, so we need to be aware of what's going on with that. We still have to figure that out, but we need to be aware that I do see some, half of it probably is dead already, whether that's because of age or because it's been affected by the ash disease, I don't know, but we need to sort of keep that in mind because it will affect the area that we have to garden, it'll affect the sun that we've got, right? So we need to be aware of that. I don't think it's our responsibility to do anything with it, but if we notice something, we need to be reporting it, and perhaps we can offer to aid. I don't know, but it's not technically our responsibility except to make sure that the United Way is aware of any issues that may come along. Then on the corner here we have this big gooseberry, which is doing really well. It's got lots of berries on it this year, but we do at some point in time need to figure out a way to sort of cage that in. So gooseberries, you know, when they grow in the wild, they grow as a shrub, but they're that type of plant that you can put a fence around them and train them to grow along the fence, or you can train them to grow up an arbor. Like they've got that kind of branch, and right now they're just sort of arcing over top of the pathway, which is not ideal. It's fine for this year, we can live with it, but it's something that we need to think about how we want to move forward so that the pathway is open for everyone to walk up and down without getting, you know, a gooseberry spine in their eye. Okay, so that's something we need to be aware of. In the corner here is the sun sitting area where we've got 4 chairs and the pot in the middle that currently has zinnias in them, which I'm hoping will take off. There's a garden at the side here and across that divides the sun sitting area from the shady dining area that is here. Okay, and then of course there's the compost area. So we'll see after the compost seminar, or not seminar, but event that's coming up in July, we'll have to really stop and think at that point in time whether or not we're in a position to be able to be composting, or what exactly we want to do to that area. It may be simply a matter of providing containers to dispose of weeds and so on appropriately. We may not be in a position to create soil for compost. I don't know. We'll have to see after the training is completed. Anyway, that's the idea. If I've missed anything, I'm not explaining anything correctly, you have any questions, I understand it's a very rudimentary video here, but I'm trying to give you an idea of what my thought is for the garden.